Hey guys, we've put in a wonderful French terrace at Pinola, and we wanted to put some great looking terracotta pots in that garden. And to be quite honest, I wanted European terracotta pots, but I could not afford them. So we bought these two pots at a local pottery shop, and they're made in Mexico, and they are a type of pottery, but I don't like the finish at all, so I'm going to change that. So neither one of them matched. So these are the two that we're going to finish. So let me tell you some of the stuff that you're going to need for this project is gloves, by all means, some paint brushes. I've got a little towel here, sand and paper in various sizes. I love the little sponges that you can use, a screwdriver to open and close your paint stirrers, and then I got this wonderful terracotta paint. But you're also going to use black paint and white paint. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take and rough up these pots. You'll notice here that they've got a real sheen on them. So whatever they painted them with last time is really shiny, and I really want my paint to adhere to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand the entire pot. So I'm just using the sanding block, going around the pot and roughing it up a bit. That way I'm really assured that it's going to take that paint. I got an exterior paint that I'm going to use on that. And the way that I matched that paint is I actually took a terracotta pot and matched the paint up with the terracotta pot. Here you can see I'm using a cheap paintbrush and I'm painting the pots. And I'm not being neat about it. I mean, I am just really, these pots have texture. I want them to look like they're old, so I'm not doing a great job. And I don't mind if a little bit of the color of these pots shows through. It's going to add to the character of the pots, and it's also going to add to that they look a tiny bit old and already used. Okay, guys, so what I'm doing here is I'm getting all the pots painted with this wonderful terracotta colored paint. Now I have finished both pots, and I'm going to let them dry. After they're dry, guys, this is a real terracotta pot, an Italian terracotta pot that we already have, so I kind of used it to match my color. And now that they are both painted with the base coat and they have dried, and I also painted down a little bit in the rim of both of them because my potting soil will go to a certain height, and I really want you to believe that these are terracotta when you see them in the garden. Well, when you look at this pot that's been weathered a little bit, you're going to see a little bit of black around the edge, and a lot of terracotta pots will have a lot of white around the bottom. So I've started painting, and what I've done here is I put a little bit of white and a little bit of the terracotta, and I'm using a sponge. I love a sponge because of the texture, and I'm just going to pounce it on there. And when I say pounce, I mean I'm just going back and forth. I'm not smearing it. I'm actually just bouncing. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a little bit of texture in this, so it kind of looks like the terracotta is actually pitted. So whatever sponge you've got, however it's done, you're going to take and kind of twist that sponge. You don't want all of this marks going the same way. And you can see here that Curry's come up to give me a little bit of help. That cat doesn't help at all. All right, and so then I'm going to go over a little of this white with a little darker of the terracotta because I don't want it so white. But normally when terracotta has gotten wet in the bottom, it shows through a tiny bit of white. So that's why I'm doing that. And I'm going to go up and dab it here and there just to give this pot a little bit of texture and a little bit of age. I want it to look like this pot has been sitting around for a long time. And of course, not too long in the weather, and it will. But I want it to have that vintage feel when I first put it in the garden. So again, just bouncing a little bit with a sponge. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of black, okay? So I've got my black, and don't go heavy on the black. Mix that black with the terracotta. And all around the top of the rim is where I'm going to put a lot of the black, and the reason is that a lot of the soil would have come over the edge of that rim, and it would have given that real dark appearance. around the rim. And then I'm going to touch it up around the bottom a good bit. And I'm going to go a little bit heavy here on the bottom. And then I'll come back with some terracotta on top of that, because if this pot were sitting outside, you'd get a little bit of a mildew kind of look on the bottom of that terracotta pot. Again, when you're using that sponge, you don't want to rub it, not like a paintbrush. You want to pounce. So bouncing back and forth to make those spots. And kind of random. Random is always so hard to do. You know, we kind of can do a balance type thing, but making something random is a little bit harder. So we're going to go all the way around the base of this pot and make it a little bit darker, much like it's a little bit of mildew on the bottom. And then there's a lot of detail on this pot. It looks like it's got the little handles, and I want to do a little bit of something with it. So I'm going to add a little bit of black to the handles. Just pouncing a tiny bit. And I've diluted it. Then I'm going to come back with something with the terracotta on top of it so that I am dulling that black. I don't want that black to be real shiny. And what ends up happening is that black starts to look like pitting. It looks a little bit like the pot has really sit out for a very long time. And you just play with it, guys, and you just get it until you realize what you think is right. And, of course, it is in the eye of the beholder, you know, how much black you put on there, or how much of the white you put on there, or how much you blend it in. So anyhow, just do it until it feels right, or until you get that achieved look that you want. It's always good to have a terracotta pot with wear and age on it sitting beside you, kind of like a guideline. So now here you can see that I have finished. So I've got all the black, I've got all the terracotta, all the white, and now we've placed them in the garden. And I absolutely love how they look in the garden. This looks like a French-inspired garden, and these pots just blend wonderfully. They absolutely help make the garden. And to be quite truthful, I could not have afforded these pots had they been true European pots. But I think by painting them, I have made them into exactly what I wanted at a fourth of the cost, and I think they turned out great.